learn what your idol likes through art alone? Hi, I'm Zephyrhill, and I love to draw. But I hate working hours on a single drawing just to have 5 people see it before Twitter banishes it to internet obscurity. And if there's one thing I hate most, it's being ignored. So I did the only reasonable thing and conducted a social experiment on unsuspecting VTuber fandoms. For the next 15 days, I'll be pushing my creativity to its very limits to see what art a content creator and its fandom are most receptive to. But first, we need our victim. I have a very simple standard for deciding who I should draw. First and foremost, they need to have an active Twitter presence because that's where I'll be posting and gathering analytics from. Secondly, they must have a full character sheet with turnarounds that are accessible. And lastly, as an added challenge, I want to pick someone with a substantial following. This is mainly because smaller content creators are more in touch with their communities and are more likely to interact directly with their audience. With larger content creators, interactions are harder because there's just too many people. So we'll really know if we did a good job if they do interact with the post. Taking all this into consideration, there's only one real option. Corporate VTubers! If you don't know, corporate VTubers are people who are hired by a company to make content with a provided avatar. Sounds great, but there's a catch. Streamers sign an NDA and have a few restrictions placed on them to keep the illusion of the character they're playing. Now, that's describing it in the broadest strokes, but the idea is the same. They're notoriously hard to get a hold of, which means if we do get an interaction, we did good! Plus, they also have a large fan base, which gives us a good sample size for this test. But I don't want to struggle too much on my first go at this, so I picked the fandom I'm most familiar with. Introducing Holostars EN. I picked this company mainly because I have a few friends who love the Holostars boys, and I'm a fan of one of the members as well. All of them have an active Twitter account, full character turnarounds, and a large following, which makes them a perfect candidate for this test. So with the power of RNGesus, I put every member on a wheel and spun it to decide which member I would draw for the next 15 days. I hope it's not the person I draw the most. What the fuck? No, please. So you know how I said I was a fan of one Holostar in particular? Yeah, that would be him. I've been in his community on and off for around a year now, and I'm already a bit known for my fan art. But you may be wondering why I sounded like a conflicted dinosaur when I landed on my favorite Holostar. To answer that, let me introduce you to my favorite red flag. This is Machina x Flayon, but that's a mouthful, so people just call him Flayon or Machina, although one of those names is objectively better. Within Holostars EN, Machina is a part of Holo Tempest Vanguard, which adds 4 more members to the founding Holo Tempest. As for his age, he's the ripe age of 18,434 years old, but Grandpa will still be flagged for an ID on account of him looking like a minor. He's from a place called Elysium, and in Elysium, he's a pilot for the Guild Tempest. But not just any pilot, he pilots a mech called the Artress, which is conveniently omitted from the official website. Now, if you thought the inclusion of a mechanical tail and a skin-tight bodysuit in his design gave off some Catwoman vibes, you'll be happy to know his mascot is in fact a cat. The mascot is called a Machiroon and also doubles as the representation for the fandom members. Now, looking back at the official website, in his words, it says he likes theater, singing, drawing, and writing, with nothing as a dislike. Considering I know better than to trust someone dressed like a stop sign, I can tell you for certain there's some additions needed. Firstly, he's passionate about voice acting. I think most people would argue he's on a professional level with how skillful his voice work is. He's one that adores a challenge in a good fight, which leans into his fighting game streams he does with his community. And lastly, he likes teasing the ever-loving Christ out of his fans. The amount of times I have witnessed his antics drive hundreds of people up a wall impresses me to no end, but also makes me mildly concerned. He can single-handedly inspire and annoy a person in a single breath, all while smiling. His mental health is questionable. But that begs the question, what are his dislikes? And to that I say, creeps. No one likes any intrusive behaviors that encroach on their personal space. With that being said, out of respect for the idol and his personal life, I will keep my findings relevant to the question of what he and his community likes based on streams and inferencing of public information. This test is in the hope of discovering more about the community and the content creator through art. It is not a test to see if they'll like me. For anyone planning to do this sort of test for their favorite content creator of choice, do not do it if your intentions are along the lines of attention seeker. Do it if you want to support the content creator and make something more curated to them and their community. If they happen to drop you a follow by the end, that's just a bonus, but don't expect anything from this sort of test. So, now that that's out of the way, let's outline my art enslavement to Machina. The goal is to make 15 drawings of Machina x Flayon in various styles and poses. Each one will be associated with one of 5 common tropes found within the community. First one being lore art. VTubers are known for having stories associated with their models, and most communities love drawing art that helps contribute to the narrative. The second trope is meme art, because if I'm going to suffer, I might as well have fun with it. Next is slice of life. This includes any daily moments that seem likely for the streamer to engage in, such as playing games, going shopping, committing arson, normal stuff. Fourth on our list is standard art, which is designated for nothing too overtly themed, but more for things like sketches or stylistic shots. Lastly is themed art, which is for artwork associated with a game or franchise. Each category will have 3 drawings associated with it, and I must finish 1 drawing in each category before I can do another drawing of the same type. This is so I don't play favorites on what I want to draw, and I hit every single category evenly. The one real restriction I have is no NSFW art. We all may be a little freaky, but I'm a freak with a beat. So, if anyone likes my art and wants something specific to scratch that itch, I do have commissions available over on VGen and Twitter. Link to those below in the description. After the art is made and published, it's time to collect receipts. After 2 days of being uploaded, I'll log each drawing's performance with the community based on the amount of views and likes each one receives. As for seeing how much Machina will like each piece, we're taking shots in the dark by seeing how much he likes, retweets, or comments on each post. Maybe he'll even use one as a promotional piece. This also means I have to tap into my inner psycho and stalk the hell out of Twitter. My only real fear with this test is that some unknowns are bound to show up and skew the results, but I'll address those as they come. So yeah, I think that's everything. We can finally start this experiment and head into week 1. For our first drawing, I decided on a pretty simple concept. I wanted to do a drawing that represented a start of something, so why not a slice of life with Maki starting his day? I thought it was a cute idea and figured we could start with something drawn in my own personal style. The idea came to me because I had just finished taking a shower and washing my hair. As I was tending to the damp curls, a lightning bolt of inspiration struck me. What if Machina's hair isn't naturally straight? He is a Sephora boy after all, so the math is mathing. That checks out. Before starting this challenge, I made a loose rule that I would watch a stream alongside drawing each image so I can support the creator and also keep a rough time estimate of how long it took me to make each drawing. For this drawing, I listened to him play Five Nights at Freddy's, and lovingly, I wish I chose differently. Hearing this boy go dum dum diddy dum 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 is both heartwarming and mildly brain-rotting. Between his ramblings and his Kokomi Teruhashi levels of confidence when proclaiming,
"Can you be nice for once?" No, because when I do, people fall in love with me.
I had come to terms with my mental health being at gunpoint for the next 15 days. I finished this drawing in roughly 4 hours and 23 minutes, and overall, I'm very happy with it, but I wish I added a decal or something funny to his shirt. But I thought of that after the fact, so I'm not really gonna lose sleep over it or anything. But the funniest thing happened the very next morning. Bold of you to assume I remember something I wasn't even there for. Oh, but wait, there's more. Promptly after he comments on my post, he posts this. Some of you remember even the tiniest details about me. Gotta keep my guard up. I'm glad to know he got mildly concerned because he did the same thing to me once upon a time. In the past, I've done 2 songs dedicated to the Red Boy. One with a group called the McFlays in a song called Our Reverie, and the other was a completely original song by me that I posted to Twitter. When I posted my song, he commented this. And in that moment, I was stun-locked from wondering how he remembered my work on Our Reverie and what Ottoman game he ripped that pickup line out of. So I hope he experienced the same breed of huh when he saw my drawing, because that would be the best sort of revenge. The next drawing on the list is one I was actually really excited for. Out of all the categories, lore is the one I personally enjoy most in this community because Machina is proactive when it comes to storytelling. But for as excited as I was to do lore art, I have a particular debuff in this category. You see, even though he's my favorite Holostar, I avoid Machina like vampires avoid the sun. In the VTuber community, you can crown a streamer as your Oshi. Oshi is a Japanese term meaning push and is in reference to someone that you want to push forward to succeed and achieve their goals. So this term is used to identify your favorite streamer that you like to watch. I have 4 Oshis, and out of the 4, I'm close to every single one of them except for one. This is because I tried to bridge the gap with my Oshis by directly talking to them through DMs if I find them cool enough. But because of my inability to actually talk to Machina, I just avoid him. So I don't really know much about his lore. I have general tidbits, but that wouldn't cut it. So I called backup. Introducing Adeline of the Gale Winds, the sanest Machiroon and my direct source of reference for any questions about Machina. Honestly, without Adeline, I would be struggling more than an incel trying to flirt, so please go support Adeline over on their socials. They do amazing pixel art and have the voice of an angel, so go find them now! It's not a request. Considering this was my first drawing in the lore category, I wanted to tackle a big question I've had about this Red Boy. How is Grandpa still alive? Machina is over 18,000 years old, which means there's a large part of his history we haven't discovered yet, or wasn't experienced at all by Machi. So for my original idea, I figured we'd shove him inside of a stasis chamber, which would preserve his life for an extended period of time. But I found out a little late that the reason why he's so old is because if you kill him, he respawns. So that kind of threw my original idea out the window. But we adapt and overcome, so we shifted the idea to be more of a Legend of Zelda approach, where the chamber helps fix the body over time. You'll see later in the drawing I changed the pose, and that's where I added more scarring and corruption to seemingly infect his repairing body and the machinery around him. The angel statue surrounding him draws back to the idea that this is a really old building, and also the Church of Rune, which is a lore video that leans heavily into religious iconography. The style I picked to emulate for this drawing was based on Charles Dalmau because his use of color and composition is gorgeous for how simple it is. I learned that you can really do a lot with a little if you fill in the environment. Timing for this drawing is a little bit off considering I was drawing while in class, also known as slacking off, and I kept forgetting to stop the timer when someone dragged me over to help them with game engine nonsense. For this drawing, I didn't listen to a stream. Instead, I listened to one of Monkey's covers, Orthodoxia. If you haven't listened to it, it leans into the same religious theming, so it was on brand. Overall, this drawing took roughly 6 hours to complete, which is conveniently how long my school day is. I'm very happy with how it turned out, and thank you, Adeline, for telling me, the perspective's off with the original pose because the second pose I picked was amazing. Also, coloring lines is finger-licking good. However, I would do 2 things differently. I would add less black glitching, and the color of the fucking milk in the bottom left, fuck me for forgetting that. I was supposed to color it to be blood, but nope, it's milk now. I really need to check my work before I post it. Now that the ball was rolling, I wanted to try my hand at themed thumbnail art. You see, streamers on YouTube need thumbnails for their streams, or at least a placeholder, which gives me the perfect opportunity to gather more data. But this doesn't mean he won't use unrelated drawings as thumbnail art for another stream, as evidenced by one of my former fan arts being used for his stream of Your Turn to Die. So even though I'll be drawing themed art with a particular game in mind, it doesn't mean others may not be picked for a thumbnail as well. Now all that was left is to open up his schedule to see what games he was going to play. Oh my god, he's playing Mad Father! I never locked in so quickly in my life. I love RPG Maker games. I grew up on games like Eve, Yumeniki, Misao, and I would play those on my grandmother's PC over the summer when I was a kid. It was some of my fondest memories I have in my youth, so I had to contribute with this game. I drew this thumbnail in the style of a manga webcomic, but that wasn't the original idea. I originally wanted to do photorealistic similar to some of my other works, but the art wasn't arting, so I changed to the more manhwa style in the end. I used the multiply and add layer to make the shadows and highlights, which gives quick but lovely results, which saved me a whole bunch of time. As for the pose, I based it similarly to the original promotional art for Mad Father, which is a wild game in and of itself. If you don't know the plot of the game, you play as a young girl named Aya who lives with her father and his maid in a giant mansion. The father is a doctor who doubles as a serial killer that turns his patients into dolls. I'm sure you see where this is going. This game is probably the catalyst for all my undiagnosed mental illnesses, but I love it all the same. Even though I forgot to watch a stream during the drawing process, the drawing took roughly 3 hours to finish. Even the blood I added helped fill in that negative space so it didn't feel so empty. I say as he doesn't use this version! Because I put titles on the artwork designated for thumbnails, I use a version without the text for people who may want to use it as a screensaver, but as a psychopath by birth, I know when something is off, especially if it's about my art. Lo and behold, he cropped the original to fill in the screen more, and I actually think it looks better, but man, the blood is gone! We'll recover from this blunder, but I only disappoint myself. Considering I got a little bit of emotional damage from the last drawing, I'll admit I did something that was a little self-serving for this one. You see, I was talking to our beloved database, Adeline, and somehow our conversation turned into childhood anime crushes. I have no shame in saying I had horrible taste in men because of anime, but there was something special about Ikuto from Shugochara. I loved him so much because broken boys are the best boys. He's selfless and protective, which causes him to distance himself from those he cares about in order to protect them from his troubles. Now, our manic pixie dream girl Machina is certainly no Ikuto. If anything, he's more similar to the main protagonist, Amu. But I wanted to draw Ikuto, and if my hands are enslaved to drawing Machina for the time being, I'll settle for cosplay. I wanted to make something without line work in the likeness of Yuming Lee and Awan Chi, both names I probably just butchered. Their styles lean heavily into color and composition that feels very painterly. It's certainly a challenging style that would require more time to properly emulate, but I got a better grasp of the style through this drawing. The pose was meant to be more of an action pose to push the composition even more and show off some movement. As for the stream, I watched him play Mortuary Assistant, where I realized he really doesn't get scared easily. That doesn't mean he can't be scared, but horror rarely feels like horror when he plays. It's more like a puzzle game with random attention-seeking demons. Overall, the drawing took 5 hours and 51 minutes, which totally wasn't done in class again. However, now that I was 4 drawings into this challenge, something odd occurred. I got depressed! Perhaps it was my lack of sleep or seeing some of the mixed results of my art, but I quickly realized that that's kind of the point. I'm doing this to figure out what people like, so I hope some of them flop and others flourish. The clearer the statistic, the better. So I took a proper nap and then got right back to work in making the final drawing for our first week. The last drawing in the set is meme art. And mind you, I'm not funny. I wouldn't be surprised if someone opted to watch paint dry overhearing me ramble, but alas, it's a category and I have a quota to fill. Luckily, I didn't have to think too hard about it because Machina was playing Silent Hill, and there was one thing in particular he did that had me floored.
Good girl. Huh?
Now don't worry, I get it. Most people would look at this in concern or fear. But you could call me a sadist because this had me laughing so hard my lungs went on strike. The man is literally hitting on people verbally and physically, and I found it to be the funniest thing. Making the sketch, I took heavy inspiration from one of my favorite manic artists, Lita, who you might know as the artist for songs like Love It or Love Cat by Biz. Lita's art style is what I would call simplistic and minimalist, but the expressions of the characters are so rich and vibrant. I referenced a lot of Lita's more manic-looking characters to try and capture the silliness of someone saying "good girl" with a weapon in their hand, but it turned more into a killing stalking panel and less of a meme. But I was amused, and that's what matters. Overall, this drawing took the shortest amount of time, being only 1 hour and 19 minutes, which is surprisingly speedy even by my standards. Sometimes simple is best, what can I say? Now that we have our first 5 drawings, we can see some very interesting results within the fanbase. After 2 days of being released, the most liked drawing was Slice of Life, with 730 likes, and a close second of 697 likes for Lore, which is unsurprising considering Machina commented on the first, and the composition was just astounding for the second one. For third place, Meme Art got 549 likes, and fourth place belongs to Standard Art at just above 500. And in a tragic turn of events, Themed Art ate shit, coming in last place with 110 likes. Now, these results make sense when you consider the higher performing drawings have more views, but it's also important to see the ratio between views and likes. A good ratio in my book is for every 10 views, you get at least 1 like. So if your post has 100 views, you should have at least 10 likes. Using a graph, I plotted points for each drawing's like-to-view ratio with a line going across to showcase the 1:10 ratio I mentioned earlier. Any points that are above the line performed better than the ratio, and looking at the graph, only 1 of the 5 drawings went above the line, and that's my beloved Ikto drawing. This is why I love him. Thank you, Edgy Catboy. Unsurprisingly, the Mad Father drawing flopped bad with a 12:1 ratio, which still puts it at the bottom of the list. Taking that into consideration, from this set, it seems that more people like Standard Art, with the others following in this order. As for Mr. Machina, it was difficult determining his opinions on each piece because we only have 4 means of determining his preferences. We can determine if he enjoys a drawing or not based on if he likes, reposts, comments, or uses an art piece as a thumbnail. This is mostly speculatory because if he doesn't interact with a post, we'd have to assume he hates it, but it could just be he didn't see it. Machina gets hundreds of drawings monthly, so it's not surprising if he misses 1 or 2, but for the time being, if he ignores it, we'll assume it didn't make the cut. So out of the 5 drawings, he never interacted with the Ikto drawing for our standard theme, which is fine, it wasn't meant for him anyways. Out of the other 4 drawings, he liked and retweeted the Lore drawing and the meme art. However, he did use the Mad Father drawing as a thumbnail later in the week. And as we know, the Slice of Life drawing elicited a very interesting interaction out of Machina. I don't know if I should take glaring cats as a good or bad thing, but it's an interaction, so I'll take it as a win. Overall, it seems that he prefers art that either reflects him personally or ones he can use as promotional pieces. Starting off the next 5 drawings, I was really itching to draw more in Charles Dalmau's style, but I wanted to try something more intimate this time. I recall Machina mentioning that he would occasionally stay out late and read in empty parking lots, though I'm not sure from which stream I remember that from. He claims that it's dangerous to do this, though I feel like it's more commonplace than one would believe. Then again, I'm from the city that never sleeps, so I might be biased. While sketching the background for this piece, I based it off of my actual car. Perhaps not everyone does this, but I keep random supplies in my back seat just in case I might need a change of clothes, a blanket, first aid, and so on. In the background, you can see the hollow tree, which is similar to the world tree of Yggdrasil from Norse mythos. It reminds me of the Erd tree from Elden Ring, but I'd imagine most magical trees look similar. Also, I was talking to Mama Hill while drawing this picture, and she recommended I added myself into this drawing. Considering I know some people like to steal and crop out watermarks, sometimes I do slip in a reference into my art. It's always a fun little Easter egg hunt for my community to see if they can spot the ciphers or references I leave hidden in my art. Overall, this drawing took 5 hours and 17 minutes to complete. I didn't watch a stream because I was celebrating my little brother's birthday, so I get a pass. The next drawing was far more experimental than normal because I'm drawing two things I suck at: mechs and mountains. Why do I hate myself? This bad idea came through when I was scrolling through Pinterest and I saw really lovely drawings of landscapes and I figured, I can do that. It was a choice, but it was one I was passionate about. Although this is standard art, I based the concept off of Machina saying the Artress can't really be parked anywhere. It's a walking warhead, so yeah, it would be threatening to neighboring countries if they knew you had a flight path that intersects them. So I had this idea that Maki parks the Artress in a hidden valley whenever he wants to get away. It was a pain drawing this on an iPad because there was no easy way to do the stylized look I wanted. Not only that, I hate drawing mechs. 3D modeling it, easy. I can have it by the end of the day. But drawing it? No, that's torture. And yet I still committed myself to doing it. Now, I don't have any notes on drawing this one because, teehee, I forgot to make some on Notion, but it took roughly 3 hours and 29 minutes to finish, which is shockingly short considering my hate for the mech, but looking at it, yeah, it's mid at best, so that checks out. For the next drawing, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to draw when I woke up, but I remember looking at Machina's second outfit for his model, which is cute, but also makes me laugh because I too wear thigh highs.
But when I wear thigh highs, it's with the express purpose of hiding the fact I forgot to shave.
Consider this. Men naturally grow hair quicker than women, so I'm willing to bet money I'm not wrong. We are sinking in the same ship, my friend. I religiously wear JK-style clothing, so I am just pointing out the obvious. Once again, we are seeing a repeating style of Yelida for meme art because the style is just too perfect for this category to pick anything else. Overall, this was another short drawing coming in at 1 hour and 17 minutes. I want to say more about this piece, but I'm going through my notes again and all I wrote in all caps was, didn't watch shit. I was in school and had a family intervention. I remember now. It was the last week of October at the time of drawing this, and I was juggling a lot. I announced my indefinite hiatus so I can work on YouTube content, and life hit harder than the isekai truck that sent me here. Within the span of an hour, I went from looking like this to looking like this, which isn't great. This leads us to our next drawing, which half-functioned as bent art and lore in one golden-colored package. I wanted to nosedive more into Machina's lore because the world I was in sucked at the time. I remember sitting under an orange tree in the grass while reading up on Machina's lore because Best Girl Adeline had directed me to a fan page that compiled all the known lore that Machina has given his community. It's called Flayon on Tumblr, which I'll link down below, and it's such a great resource for anyone who wants to get caught up on any lore they may have missed. In this blog, I got summaries of every arc, and I happened upon one called Canis Minor. It was apparently a stream that happened on Machina's channel, but typing in the name doesn't give you anything. So I brought it up to Adeline, and this MVP came back with receipts. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, you blessed person. Apparently, the reason why you can't find the Canis Minor stream is because it was unarchived, and the only way to find it is through Twitter. Immediately upon getting the link, I got curious about the name, so I did a Google search. The term Canis Minor is actually in reference to the constellation Canis Minor, which is a part of the bigger constellation of Orion. I found that part particularly interesting because all the founding members of Holotempest have a clear relation to the stars, and this seems to be calling back to the astrology of their origins. Canis Minor is a small constellation of only 2 stars whose name means lesser dog in Latin. Canis Minor contrasts Canis Major, which is the twin constellation. Funnily enough, some of the neighboring constellations of Canis Minor happen to be Gemini, which is Machina's birth sign. As for the stream itself, I would recommend you watching it personally, because it's only a short watch and it's quite impactful. I couldn't watch all of it in one sitting because he said something weird. It's almost like...
Then if you don't have your memory,
I've heard this before.
does it really matter?
But eventually I did have a proper watch and it was great. Considering I was mentally unavailable, I decided to draw it in my own style. I used reference for the background and opted for that lifeless stare because it was cathartic. You can even see I added a little bit of swirl to the eyes. The reflection in the mirror is of someone you see in Canis Minor, and you find out more about him in the video. Surprisingly, I only spent 3 hours on this one, which is quicker than a bat out of hell. I posted the drawing shortly after and titled it with a little cipher. If you've never done an ARG, you probably haven't seen many ciphers, but my title uses hexadecimal to spell out Canis Minor. I have used ciphers in some of my former drawings for Machina just because of how fitting it feels for his theme. After getting out all my tears with that sob fest, I wanted to do something that would kickstart the chemicals in my brain, and let me tell you, this next themed art had me in a chokehold! I love vampires. My community knows I suffer from 2 extremes of sadism and masochism because I love the suffering of myself and others, and who else is the king of trauma other than vampires? If you find a vampire in a story, 9 times out of 10, they are dangerous, broken, and touch-starved, which just so happens to be everything I love in a man. So when I saw Machina was going to play through Vampire the Masquerade, I just had to make art for it. I leaned more towards a suggestive pose for this one with a hard focus on that diagonal line to feel akin to a Dutch angle, which is supposed to make the viewer feel off-balanced. The clothing for this one is reminiscent of Machina's Grateful Dead March cover with a slash of Dream Eater flair.
An elegant way of saying he looks like a slut.
The background is supposed to be him lying on a bed because vampires are known for the necromancing behind closed doors, if you know what I mean. And that leans into me having 2 bite marks drawn on Machina. Don't ask about the second one. For what I listened to while drawing this, I watched Machina's collab with Doppio Drop Scythe of Niji Sanji. They are childhood friends who share many fond memories together, and in this particular stream, they were playing... What the fuck? Let me tell you, this drawing took 6 hours to make, but in actuality, it was an all-day affair because I kept getting distracted by all the out-of-pocket comments said during the stream. For as funny as the stream was, I still had to finish this drawing, and not only that, I had a game due the next day! Needless to say, I didn't sleep that night and managed to complete the game, but I knew I couldn't watch them collab if I had anything important that needed to be done. With week 2 out of the way, we could finally look at the community statistics. For likes, unsurprisingly, Slice of Life reigns supreme again with 586 likes, and I'm starting to think we might have a trend appearing. However, unlike last week, meme art lands itself in 2nd place with 446 likes. 3rd place is standard art with just under 400, which is surprisingly good for how much I hated it. However, the last 2 drawings are tragic. At just barely over 200 likes, our suggested vampire art definitely got the short end of the stick. Even worse, our lore drawing is right down at the bottom with the Mad Father drawing from last week with 112 likes, which is beyond bad. It's kind of funny how the 2 worst performing drawings were drawn in my own style, which definitely is a confidence boost for sure. But this isn't the full picture now, is it? Again, comparing our views to like ratio, you can see only Slice of Life and standard art performed above the ratio, while meme art was the worst out of the set. I suppose everyone disliked being called out on main, but little did you know, your suffering fuels me. As for Machina, he definitely is revealing some patterns of his own. Out of the 5, the only piece of art he didn't interact with was the standard art, and you know what that means? With the remaining 4, all 4 had likes and retweets, but the Vampire the Masquerade themed art was used for his YouTube thumbnail later that week. This is an editor's note. I was told after the fact that Machina left a little message for me in the description of that video. Here, let me read it. It says thumbnail artist zephyrhill, and in parentheses, it says Drowsy is a Dream Eater too. Do you like him? The fact that he brought up a Gen 1 Pokemon and not like Kingdom Hearts Dream Eaters is completely beyond me, but the answer is yes. I was a psychic trainer back in the day, so you hit the nail on the head, Machina. Good job. But this particular post, he made me realize something interesting. Unlike the community results, I log Machina's interactions without a time frame constraint. This is because he actively looks through his art tag more frequently than his fans, which would make him more likely to find art that may be from older posts. I bring this up because my lore drawing was the post right before the themed art drawing. Turns out he retweeted the lore art and made his going live tweet using my art in close succession to one another, which leads me to conclude one thing. This man is scrolling through my page! Listen, buddy, you ain't slick. You could have just bookmarked the tweet or something, but you waddled over to my page and scrolled for it. Now, I'm not 100% sure in this claim, but looking at the time frame between his posts and mine, it seems likely. Also, as a side note, for both Mad Father and Vampire the Masquerade, Machina doesn't actually like and retweet. He makes a separate post and tags the artists with a slash in their name so they don't get spammed with likes and comments. But I consider it liking and retweeting because it's pretty much the equivalent. But I have noticed something weird drawing throughout this week. The average views from last week to this week dropped. The average views from last week was roughly 5.7 thousand views, while this week averaged 3.8 views. That is a drastic drop of nearly 2,000 views, and I was puzzled by what could have been the cause. I didn't think much of it at the time until one night I was watching the Mad Father stream I had waited so long for, and Machina mentioned something telling.
I've seen more art and stuff when I look at my own tag, not on my account. Huh? So maybe it's like the stupid shadow ban stuff. Huh? But thank you so very much.
Shadow banned? No. I had forgotten about the one thing that would ruin my statistics and destroy this challenge! For those who are blessed enough not to be on this cursed site called Twitter, shadow banning means people can't see your account or posts because Elon's robot AI army thinks you are a robot just like them. If I was shadow banned, that would explain why almost half of our views vanished seemingly overnight. I was devastated, but I had to figure out a workaround with this new variable. Introducing Papa Hill! My papa is an analytic professional with a mafia mentality. He is the smartest and scariest person I know, and consulted me on this dilemma. This is why I'm showing you the ratio between views and likes, and why we're going over groups of 5. At the end of the video, I'll go more in depth about the collective results, but I had to post less frequently as a result of the shadow banning. But Mama didn't raise no quitter, so we adapt and overcome! Now on to the last 5 drawings. The first drawing of the set is a return of my favorite theme, depression. After hearing more about Doppio and Machina's friendship, it really reminded me of my own middle school experience with one of my close friends. We had such amazing times together and bonded over being anime weebs, but we lost that when they moved away. Fast forward to present day, me and Nico are both VTubers now, and rekindled our friendship after years of being apart. It's funny seeing the parallels of both our Osanana Jimis, especially since Nico is a very talented voice actor. So even though I say this is a theme of depression, it's more of a theme of missing someone who's gone away. This drawing is leaning towards the Genshin Impact style, and I wanted to encapsulate the feelings of our memories and dreams comforting us during hard times. Most people use their imaginary worlds to form escapism when they feel overwhelmed or out of control. In the background, I drew a younger Machina and Doppio laughing together while a tired Machina is being held by indistinguishable hands. The hands are more symbolic of how lonely online life can be, especially when you have most of your friends online or work remotely. In those situations, it's easy to want nothing more than a hug from people who aren't there. So I added the hands to symbolically represent those friends who can't be by our side but are always with us. And because I like a little bit of sting in my art, I added the quote, "We all have time machines in the form of memories and dreams," because it's a little bit bittersweet and I love a little bit of suffering. This drawing took the whole hour of my lunch break to finish, and I didn't watch a stream for this one, but rather listened to Chaos Maiden Egoist by Yosei Teikoku, which is also known as Deus's theme from Mirai Nikki. Both songs are peak, so do not be surprised if I cover either one in the future. The second drawing is one I lovingly call When Intrusive Thoughts Win. Now, I briefly mentioned I 3D model, but I neglected to say that, in fact, it's my career. I am what's called a hard surface modeler, which means I model props and rooms. So even though I do art like this, I also make things like this. Now, I don't normally 3D model for fun because it's not fun, but also because it takes an excessive amount of time. One drawing can take an hour or so, while one 3D model can take a day. Even at my quickest, it still takes a long time, and that's just for props. Characters take substantially longer and have to be rigged. But I got told I needed to make a 3D model for my next game, so why not kill two birds with one rocket? First, I made the character sheet, which took minimal time to put together, and committed to a low poly style. This was to make it easier when I had to animate the model later on. Now, you may be wondering why he isn't wearing none of his normal outfits. The game I've been tasked with making is for an assignment, which is an endless runner. I wanted to make a design that would be more suited for the theme, so I merged runner and mechanic together and got crop top Machina.
As for the game,
this is going to be a fan game for Machina that hopefully will be posted sometime around his 2-year anniversary. I'm using Unreal Engine 5 to create the game itself, and it has been girling at the very least to say. However, the character was modeled, rigged, and animated all in Blender. Considering I never animated in Blender before, it was certainly a learning curve, but I'm grateful for the experience because now I know. Overall, this piece took 8 hours, oh my god. And I wonder why I don't have a social life. But at least Machina's Dragon Ball stream kept me company. Drawing number 3 is a different one. It's themed art that isn't based on a game he has on his schedule. If you've watched Machina streams before, you'll know that he has a kinship with Goro Akechi from Persona 5. As someone who was outed earlier that day as the IRL Sumire Yoshizawa, I genuinely think there's a trauma for every person in this series. So when Machina claims, "Wow, he's just like me for real," I smell an art opportunity. I gathered so many references for this one because I wanted to get as close to the Persona style as possible. I always loved doing this style in particular because I have taken commissions to mimic the style in the past. I have Machina and Goro Akechi's first Phantom Thief outfit because it feels more fitting with how Machina is perceived. Now, if you've ever played Persona 5, you know Goro Akechi is something special. You'll play the entire game not trusting him, but still dropping everything you're doing just to complete his social link. In a very similar way, you can see this relationship between Maki and the Machiroons. He's someone who is very clearly and obviously not showing his hands, but his charm and charisma can drop anyone's guard. As a character trait, it's one of my favorites to watch, but actually seeing someone with that trait makes me think of the quote, "Don't trust the survivor until you learn what they did to survive." Goro Akechi is probably one of my favorite characters of all time because when he reveals who he was, I like that version of him more. Seeing so much more raw emotion from the character, it really justifies why he does what he does and why he was so shady from the jump. But it also makes me question if Machina relates to Goro so much, what the hell is he masking? Overall, this drawing took 4 hours and 15 minutes to complete, and I was watching his Halloween stream while creating it. That stream in particular was a wild ride and really made drawing this so much more fun. Our second to last drawing was based on a meme I saw which made me laugh so hard. I wanted to redeem myself with the funnies, and this one really spoke to me because there's a form of ASMR I tolerate, and that's meme ASMR. I still remember the time I discovered rough sex making you feel good, and the comments sent me with how completely savage some people are. Now, I know he's a professional panty snatcher with how good he is at ASMR, but I personally find no enjoyment out of ASMR streams for those purposes. During every single one of his voice acting streams, everyone else is screaming in chat about not being able to breathe while I'm taking notes trying to figure out how he made that sucking biting noise with his mouth. To this day, I still don't know. I hope if Machina does on the off chance make spoof ASMR, he hits everyone with the metal pipe in the vine boom. I shall be manifesting it. Overall, this drawing took a short and easy hour, which allowed me to be silly, and I loved it. Now, counter to the source material, this man is smiling in my drawing because I find it harder to believe that he wouldn't. He gives problematic girlfriend trope a run for its money. Every yandere needs to step up their game because anyone with working eyes can see this walking red flag from miles away. He may be mysterious, but not in the abandoned castle on a hilltop sort of way. He's more like the taped-off crime scene sort of mysterious. You see the warning signs, but just a peek couldn't hurt. Now, for anyone thinking I'm delusional for making these claims, I want to remind you he played Spider-Man and titled it this. No killing, but I'll send you to the hospital, smiley face. I gotta say, that sounds a little, you know, suspect. Now, this is absolutely the pot calling out the kettle, but honey, red flags are red for a reason. You can't fix that, so save the Delulu lemonade for someone else. You will thank me later. And finally, we are at the last drawing of Slice of Life. Considering it was my last drawing, I wanted to choose a trait that is widely known about Machina and use that as a jumping off point for this drawing. Out of all the options I had, his natural strength is one that stood out because of how much pride he has in his physicality, and, well, for this drawing, I knew I wanted to show an exercise that was hard for the average person to do. This would show off pretty much the strength aspect of Machina and also fill in the composition really nicely. I tried out a few exercises myself and landed on a yoga pose that was nearly impossible for me to do. When I got reference for the pose and tried it out myself, it looked halfway between a split and a firefly pose, which worked nicely for the composition and also for the idea of a strength exercise. The style I decided to reference was Prince Canary, who is known for their action poses and cartoony style. For the background of this drawing, I originally was going to do a gym, but that's boring and not really fitting for the final drawing, so I opted for a bedroom scene. But I don't know what his room looks like. Adeline! According to our favorite rune, they say he's the clumsiest guy they know and would most definitely clear the area or find a way to wipe out on something around him. Also, they mentioned he was jealous of the other runes for having cute rooms filled with plushies. Felt that one. Lastly, Rice what now? Yeah, so this is Rice, his Furby baby, with a plushie of his favorite cavity warrior, Deathman, who is in fact a real man who has a Twitter. Go look it up. Now, just when I thought I've seen it all, Adeline lovingly shows me clips of Rice being a brat.
Hey, Furby! Tell me a story.
No.
What the?
Okay, I love her, which isn't surprising when my own abomination is named Shank and looks like this. Adeline gave me a few other pointers like adding fidget toys and cinema roll merch, which was easy enough to add in. Some final touches were adding Biggie on the bed and my little cameo in the background for our final drawing in the set. Overall, this drawing took 5 hours and 15 minutes to finish, and it's by far my favorite in the set. I wanted to watch Machina's stream, but he was playing a game I planned on playing myself, so no stream for this one too. After posting this picture, I was so relieved to have finished this challenge that I celebrated with Mama Hill with some murder shows and drinks before calling it a day and heading to bed.
Well, this wasn't on my bingo card.
So yeah, Dentman is a fan of Machina's and followed me after demanding I go brush my teeth. I didn't know what reality I lived in where dental sentais would follow my account, but we ball, I guess. For this last set, the community had a grand time playing with my emotions. The first drawing had the lowest amount of likes, being only at 147, and each drawing progressively got more likes with each post. The last drawing had the most, with 640 likes, and also a retweet from Dentman, which clearly means this one is something special, but also means this post got extra notoriety. I'm willing to bet the ratio is going to be bad for this one, but let's see. When we plot each one out on the graph, oh yeah, that's horrible. Every single drawing performed badly in the ratio category except the lore drawing. Aw, that makes me feel good. Thank you, guys. Now that we have all our data collected for every single drawing, we can see what the community as a whole prefers. The overwhelming majority of Machiroons like slice of life art the most, with meme art in a solid second place, which makes sense. I'd argue the community prefers more casual, cozy scenes with their streamer because it feels more personal. The category that was least appreciated by the community was themed art. But what about Machina? For this last set, he completely ignored lore drawing. Perhaps it was too depressing for him. All the other drawings got collectively liked and retweeted, but nothing else.
Trying to make this hard on me, aren't you?
Well, fine. We'll work with the bare minimum then. If we look at all 15 drawings, themed art takes the cake with being the most celebrated by Machina, and I wonder why. It goes without saying that any artist who makes a thumbnail for their idol is really helping them out because now the idol themselves doesn't have to make a thumbnail. Now, what if you don't want to do a thumbnail? Out of the 4 remaining categories, he liked and retweeted all the meme art and slice of life art, which probably explains why those 2 categories were also the overall highest performing in the community likes. So overall, it seems like both the streamer and the community enjoys cozy and fun art. Basically, rom-com. They like rom-com. And that's it! 15 drawings and a bunch of statistics in an attempt to psychoanalyze this community and their habits. And I didn't even go over everything. I neglected to go over bookmarks, retweets, mainly because I had a hard time figuring out how to work it into my analysis because it would drag out this video way too long. But seeing the engagements on each post and reading all the comments made doing this project so much more fun. So I'd like to thank the man behind the screen making Machina such a joy to draw, and thank you to everyone who watched all the way to the end. This is my first proper YouTube video outside of making covers on my channel, and I'm looking forward to doing more videos like this with other VTubers in the future. So if you liked this video, please give it a like and comment on other VTubers you want to see me do next. But for now, I've been your Dream Eater Zephyrhill, and I will see you in the next stream. Oyasumi!